Okay, we're going to go factoring through long division. So normally you're taught factoring by like decomposition, where you split the middle term and you find factors that add up to this times this and add to this, or multiply to that times that. Or there's finding the factors of the terms, 1, 15, 3, and 5. Or you can use the quadratic formula, which is like negative b plus or minus, blah, blah, blah. So there's many ways of finding roots or factoring something. I'm going to show you another one. This is usually by long division. It's usually used for terms that are large polynomials. So something like 5x4 plus 3x3 plus 2x2 plus 5x minus 15, like a huge, or minus 10, huge one like that. They usually use long division. But long division can technically be used to factor a quadratic, okay? So the way we do this is we have to know what the a and the c term are, which is really similar to before. We know that the a is our first term and the c is our last term, okay? Which by default leaves our b as this. So ax squared plus bx plus c. And what we're going to do is we're going to find factors of a times c. So we take a and we multiply it by c, okay? And that's going to give us our number that we got to find factors of, okay? Similar to decomposition. So in this case, 5 times negative 15 is going to be negative 75, okay? Negative 75. So we got to look through a bunch of factors, and there's a ton of factors to negative 75. We can kind of write them all out. Technically, we can go 1 and negative 75, or vice versa, negative 1 and 75. There's a pairing. 2 won't go in, 3 goes in, and we can go negative 3 times 25, or 3 times negative 25. 4 does not go in, 5 goes in. We can go negative 5 times 15, or 5 times negative 15. 6, no. 7, no. 8, no. 9, no. 10, no. Okay, so those are all of our factors. So what we can do with this is one of these numbers, and there's a bunch, right? There's a whole bunch of pairs here. One of these is going to be a number that creates a 0. And it doesn't actually have to be a pairing. It can just be one of the two. Okay? So the first number we're going to try is the number 1. Okay? So what that means is we're going to plug 1 into this. We're going to find f at 1. And we're going to see if it equals 0. If it equals 0, then we're doing great. We have one of the x-intercepts. Okay? So let's bring out our calculator here. I'm going to kind of put this all through in one shot. So 5 times 1 squared. Okay, that's how I do squared on this. Oops. There we go. Okay. Plus 10 times 1. So I've replaced both of the x's with the value of 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Minus 15 equals 0. Amazing. So just by chance, the first one we used worked. One of these other ones will also be the other x-intercept. There's always 2 x-intercepts to a quadratic. We can go through them all, or we can use long division. So you can do trial and error through this, or we can do some long divisions. We're going to do long division. We know that one of them is 1. Okay? So we know that 1 is an important value. Okay? And we know when we write factors, we usually write them like x and our value, and x and our other value. We know one of them is 1. Now we have to write it the opposite way in this bracket. Okay? So we're going to write it as negative 1. And that's going to be important for us, because we're going to take this and divide it into here. Okay? So what that means is we have x minus 1, and then we take our original, 5x squared plus 10x minus 15. Okay? Then we do division. So how do we do division with 2 terms? This looks kind of confusing. Well, all we got to do is we got to figure out how to match up our first term with this first term. We want them to eliminate. So we have to be used to like common factoring and stuff, okay? So I got to figure out this times what will equal 5x squared. Well, I know that this is a 1 technically in front of that. So how do I turn 1 into 5? What do I have to multiply by?
5.
Definitely, I got to multiply by 5. Okay, so I have 5. And I'm going to have to also multiply, because this is x to the power of 1 and this is x to the power of 2, by 5x. Okay, so we have to multiply this by this term here, 5x. Okay, so 5x times x is 5x squared. And that's very purposeful. We need it to be identical to this because they have to eliminate. Okay, does it make sense how I found that 5x?
Yeah, you just have to times it.
Yeah. Yeah, and another way you could have thought of it is if I take this and divide it by x, so if I did 5x squared divide x, well, 5 divided by 1 is 5, and x squared divided by x is x. So 5x, there's our term, okay? But I also have to multiply 5x times our negative 1. Well, that's just going to make negative 5x, okay? So it's kind of like a distributive property. I have to take this and multiply it by both of the term, okay? Now with long division, we subtract, okay? So I subtract these two, and we have to know our integers relatively well. These two equal 0. I could write 0 in, but it's really not important. It's not going to help us for what we need to do, okay? So we know that eliminates. What's important is 10x minus negative 5x, okay? If you recall, 10 subtract negative 5 is actually like adding, so it should equal positive 15, okay? So we get actually positive 15x when we subtract. Then, like long division, we bring down the next number, and it is negative 15. And then we do this same process again. We have to make sure that this first term eliminates that first term. Well, this time it's both x to the power of 1, so I don't have to multiply by any x's. How do I turn 1 into 15? What do I have to multiply by?
15.
15. So we got to multiply by positive 15. So positive 15 is the other one. And now we have to make sure that we multiply both these terms by positive 15. And in order for this to work, this should all eliminate at the end. If it doesn't eliminate, then we've made a mistake somewhere or it's not a true root. So 15 times x is 15x. 15 times negative 1 is negative 15. Okay. And we again subtract. And lo and behold, these eliminate, we got 0. Perfect. So what that means is this is the other bracket. This is the first bracket. We knew that was the right one, so I'll highlight them. This is what we divided by, and we found the other one. So the factored form of this, okay, is written as f at x is equal to, first one is x minus 1, and the other one is 5x plus 15. Now, technically, we can do some common factoring. I can technically common factor 5 out of this, and then we'd write a 5 here, and this would be x plus 3. But this is technically acceptable, too. This is an answer for what we're doing.